Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk and Whatnot. This episode is brought to you by Marcus Rodriguez. If you're looking to buy or sell your home in this competitive market and you're not too sure where to start, look no further than Merced's preferred realtor, Marcus Rodriguez. He'll make sure this process goes as smooth as possible, and you can find him at 209-554-1715 or visit his website, www.myrealtormarcus.com. His email is info@myagentmarcus.com, and he'd appreciate a call. Thanks again, Marcus. This podcast is also brought to you by Alien, a new fitness wear company on a mission to support mental health. There are over 7 billion people on Earth, many that struggle with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, or just feeling like you have no one that cares. If you feel this way, just know you are not alone. Alien features high-quality men and women's activewear designed to help you reach your goals both in and out of the gym. A percentage of all proceeds are donated to the suicide awareness and prevention. Shop now at alien.org. That's AYLEAN.org. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk and Whatnot. I'm your host, Micah Diele, and this is a podcast where I highlight the talented individuals who make up the Central Valley of California, as well as people in general who are passionate about what they do. Once again, I'm going to remind you guys about reviews and downloads. Make sure you're downloading every single podcast on whatever podcast app you use, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other podcast app, as well as if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Make sure you're giving the videos thumbs up. Make sure you're liking every video. Make sure you're just sharing it where you can, because I really want to get this video out to the rest of the Central Valley, because I wanted to highlight this beautiful area that we live in. Now, on today's episode, I am joined by a good friend of mine that goes by the name of Matt Davis. Matt was my youth pastor growing up. He is now a teacher at El Capitan. He was a teacher at Golden Valley, so I know some students who watch this may notice who he is. And we just had a really great conversation about, why he got into teaching, why he loves helping kids, and, the struggles that occurred to him in his life of figuring out, what really he wanted to do, but also just what led him to go back to teaching after 13 years of not teaching. So he started as a teacher, then he ended up being, a youth pastor, then a music pastor, then another youth pastor, and one thing or another, he got straight back to teaching 13 years later. And we talked about why that was and the process of becoming a teacher 13 years later, because we talked about when he first went to teaching, they didn't have computers. He said teachers rarely had computers. And now, 13 years later, every single student has a Chromebook. So it was a great conversation. We talked about society and culture and just how divided everybody is at this moment. And just, just the insight of two people who are just somewhere in the middle of all these right, left, this way, that way type of things. And it was just a great conversation. And I truly, truly enjoyed it. And I hope you do too. So ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Matt Davis.
This is it. Real talk and whatnot.
Real talk. That's what it is.
Real talk.
Real talk. Real talk.
Well, I think I met your sister
right?
first,
Because
right?
of Daniels, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Because did they go to Gateway, or how did you meet them?
No, I started at a small church in Atwater at
Oh, the one that was like at the schools and stuff?
yes.
Right? That's the right one, right?
Yeah, that was so when I left I started at LeGrand High School when I was 22, right out of college.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did you go to ministry or?
Not yet. I hadn't. So right after college, I got hired at LeGrand High School. They needed an English teacher, and that was the route I was taking. And so I taught there for 4 years. I was the baseball coach. Loved it. It was fantastic.
Real small though, right?
yeah.
I mean, comparatively to.
Yes, super small. Really cool community. You kind of get to know everybody right away, and you get to know families and parents who really care. And if their kids get in a fight at school, they're beating their kids when they get home.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like not beating, but
I know what you mean. Back then, times were different. You could be.
Times were different. Yeah. So 4 years in, I hadn't finished my credential yet, which was really weird because I was still working on like an emergency intern credential. And this opportunity came up at New Life Church in Atwater where I could play guitar and hang out with high school kids for about the same amount of money.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, tight, let's do that.
Yeah, that sounds like a little bit more cool.
Yeah, it was.
And that was a
good.
youth pastor job?
Yeah, so a youth pastor, and I led music on Sunday mornings, and it didn't last super long.
I remember I went one time to their like pancake breakfast or something like that, and I was like, "This is a church? Like, what is this?"
I'm still in contact with some people
from
there even today. I mean, everywhere you go, there are great people.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, you know, for sure, for sure.
Everywhere you go, there are not fantastic people as well. But so yeah, I got hired there. And I did ministry for 13 years.
Oh, damn, that's how long you did it? Yeah. I remember, boy, you were kind of all over the place, right, with ministry?
I was at, oh goodness, I was at New Life for probably not even 2 years. And then I was at Gateway for like 8.
Yeah.
And then...
You went to CPC for a little while, right?
CPC, so in the middle of that, I ran and owned a gym.
Oh, yeah, CrossFit, right?
The CrossFit.
The CrossFit. Was it CrossFit Merced? Is that the one?
CrossFit Merced, yeah.
Okay.
My friend started it up, and then he had other things going on and asked me if I wanted to come in on the ownership side. So I ran it for a few years, and that was fun too. And then a job at CPC opened up that was just doing music.
It was the music.
Yeah. And I figured,
they called that music pastor? Is that what they called it? Or
I don't know.
You don't know your job title?
I always made up my job titles. So I did that for a couple of years, and then a spot opened up where they wanted to hire somebody to do college ministry there, and so I did college ministry and music ministry for a full year, and that was fun.
Really?
I really enjoyed college ministry, but then lots of things happen and whatever. So I went back to teaching at Golden Valley 3 years ago when I was...
Okay, yeah, I remember when you went back, because then I started subbing for you a little bit. And
yes.
stuff.
Yeah, so I had just made another career change at 40.
My favorite memory is like I was eating lunch in your classroom. I told Chaim to come in because he was subbing too, and Chaim packed his lunch that day, and he made himself a sandwich, and he didn't put meat in the sandwich, so it was like cheese, mustard, and lettuce, and no freaking meat. And I just was cracking up laughing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, so now I'm in induction with Chaim. I'm back to being a brand new beginning teacher.
Yeah, so you kind of have to restart everything.
Yeah, I had to start over.
So you're in a credential program and everything too?
So I'm done with all of the credential program, the schooling, the testing, all of that stuff, but state of California requires you to clear your credential, which means you work with a mentor for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And
they make sure that blah, blah, blah.
Yes, mostly blah. Yeah. So I'm back. So Chaim and I sat together at a professional development day a couple weeks ago, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But coming back to teaching after 13 years away,
and I'm sure the first time you went into teaching, it was like, I mean, computers were at the computer lab. It wasn't.
Yeah, nobody had computers.
Yeah.
Teachers barely had computers. Yeah. There were no, and so when I got back, that was the biggest learning curve. Every kid had a Chromebook. Every assignment was on Google Classroom or Canvas, and learning to negotiate that again was the biggest deal. Kids are still kids. They're pretty much the same, which is great. Because every job I've ever had in my life, I've dealt with kids.
Huh?
Every single job.
And high school kids pretty much. High school and up.
High school, college, yeah. And even when I was in college, I did extended day programs for elementary students. So I was there before school, there after school, kicking a soccer ball with kids. It was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like working with kids then, pretty much?
Because I feel mostly like I never kind of grew up from then. Like you get older and have to pay bills, but fart jokes are still hilarious.
Yeah.
So,
I'm the same way. I'm always just like, I can't believe like especially like when I'm substituting classes, I'm always just like, Like if you guys like, because like some kids like do end up like talking to me, and then when they talk to me, sometimes they'll like, oh, I have a podcast if you guys want to check it out. And I was doing that. I was subbing. You know who Svensson is at Atwater? David Svensson. He's like water.
Oh
polo.
yeah.
So I was subbing for him, and like these two kids were like talking to me, and then one of the kids somehow it got brought up. My buddy Duffy, who like edits the sound and stuff for the podcast and everything, but he's a rapper. And one of the kids is like, you know who Duffy Murphy is? I'm like, yeah, he's my best friend. I was like, I'm literally editing a podcast like right now with like with Duffy, and he's like, I love his music. I was like, what? Like, what is going on here? But he had his sister in class.
Oh, gotcha.
His sister's a teacher and everything like that.
Okay.
And then like this other girl's like, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, Mr. Daly has a podcast. And I was just like, I literally hand kids my business card sometimes because it has a QR code. So just like scan it. I'm like, hey, whatever's gonna get me
Check it
some
out.
more listeners. Yeah. I was like, here you go. And then the girl just looked up at me. She was like, you're so fucking cool. And I was like, what? I was like, thanks, I appreciate it, but like kids are like so funny. But I'm also afraid sometimes that like if I do tell a kid about my podcast, they're gonna be like, what a fucking loser or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just know how kids are, and I've like thought about shamelessly plugging my podcast. Like, just put my QR code up. Like, hey, we really appreciate if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. You
Check it out, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I got some rappers, and all the kids, their first thing is like, weed nuns? What is that?
Yeah.
I'm always just like, that's a tough one to explain to you guys. I'm not too sure how to go about this.
Yeah. They are nuns.
Yeah, they're nuns. They're not really. I mean, I guess they can be religious. I've like gotten to be like, it's funny because like I had them on my podcast, and then since then, like I went over to their house twice for their little ceremonies and stuff like that. But this last time, they had like a mini ceremony, or they call moon ceremonies, and then they had this band from LA come out, and it was like they had like set up a light rig and everything, and it was just like me and my friends, and then just the nuns. But it was like a really cool show. They sounded like Tame Impala mixed with Kings of Leon.
Oh wow!
And it just sounded like cool. I was just like, and they had like I'd never seen a steel guitar.
Oh really?
And like
a lap steel?
Yeah, exactly. And then the guy was like, and like it just sounds like so much different than like an actual guitar. But I was just like, man, this is sick.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm friends with some weed nuns.
Making friends everywhere. High school kids. Yeah.
And it's funny because before I started the podcast, like I was like, oh, it's like I guess when you get to a certain age, you just don't meet new people. Like you just don't have new friends. And like since I started the podcast, I'm like, I have so many friends.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I sort of feel. Well, I guess living in Merced all of my adult life, I feel like I just know everybody in Merced, which is a little bit weird. Like we'll go to the grocery store and my kids get mad because I say hi to 5 or 8 people.
If you go to Rayleigh's, dude.
Oh yeah,
Rayleigh's is the place. Like I feel like Save More everywhere else you kind of see people, but Rayleigh's I'm like, oh my, hi, how's it going?
Everybody. Yeah, and people I don't recognize, and like they'll say, oh, we miss you at church. I was like, I don't remember
which church it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway,
no, it's all good. So then, I mean, what was your? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, like, why did you decide to leave church to go to teaching again?
Back to teaching, yeah, at 40 years old. Stupid move.
I don't know.
I know. I think. I want to say this diplomatically because like I said before, there's so many great people at churches in Merced. I think I just got pretty tired of, well, there are a number of things. One is I got pretty tired of church culture, kind of in a shoebox, all thinking the same way.
Preaching. I feel like church, a lot of times it's like people are preaching about, like open-mindedness and everything like that, but yet like the community of church seems pretty close-minded.
It does, and it can.
That's me saying this, you guys. Okay, not Matt.
Yeah, it does, and it can, and I feel like the people who go to church at least are always going to go to church, and I did feel like, without trying to sound arrogant, I have some things to offer, especially high school kids, and maybe even the greater culture of Merced. I want to be able to show and demonstrate how to live well, and how to grow up well, and how to love other people, and how to love your family and how to work hard and how to negotiate life, right? And I did get to do that quite a bit with our college group, but it did feel still sort of limited in the things I could do and say, and how to negotiate that just became cumbersome and a little bit frustrating. And it's not anybody's fault. It was just the way things went. And so...
And probably how things have been set up in churches
Yeah.
or in things for such a long time that,
Right.
and like, I mean, a lot of people, or I think most people can agree, like, I just remember like when there's a change in the church, it's just like all hell break, or like, you know what I mean? People like who have been in the church for 50 years
Right.
want things to stay the same. And then the new wave of people want things to be a little different. And it's just like the butting heads, and it's just like everyone wants the same goal of like, you should be wanting to spread God, religion more openly, but it seems like sometimes...
Well, everybody's got a different idea of how to do that, right? And so, that happened at the churches I was at in Merced, where, things just come to a point where you're like, I see where this is going, and a lot of people want it to go that way, and I don't know if I really want to go that way with the church. And so, I have nothing terrible to say about the churches I worked at all. I got frustrated. They probably got frustrated with me, and that's fine. And so then at 40 years of age, I had a friend at the gym who's a local high school principal, and said, "Hey, Matt, a English position opened up at Golden Valley. You should apply for it." And I was like, "What?" So within the span of 3 days, I had applied, interviewed, and been offered the job.
And then you're like, really have to look at everything.
Career change like that. Well, and then so when I got the call from HR, they said, we want you at Golden Valley. I said, okay, give me 30 minutes, please. So I called my wife and I said, what do you think? She goes, are you excited? I said, yeah. She goes, do it. So, I don't recommend career changes that late in life for anybody. It's been so hard, but it's also been super rewarding. I got to go back to Golden Valley where I graduated.
Is that
from.
where you graduated
Yeah.
from? Were you on like one of the first graduating classes?
I was the second one.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
we came over to the campus as sophomores after being Bears as freshmen.
Oh, okay.
And then so we got that little split.
Did they have like, because sometimes when they start new schools, they start with like just freshmen, sophomores, and then they like slowly go up and fill it. Is that how they did it too?
We had freshmen, sophomore, juniors.
Okay, yeah, but no seniors the first year, and then move up.
Yeah. And so I got to go back, and there were some teachers still there that's
kind of cool.
Still on, and the OGs.
Atta babe.
And so it was really cool getting to know them in a different context, and just
as your peers,
exactly.
Versus,
and then Swartwood as the principal. You take a risk on a 40-year-old guy who hasn't taught in 13 years. And I felt like I was in way over my head. Like, why did I do this? First week of school, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. It was awful. And so I texted Swartwood and I said, I'm not very good at this. I'm really sorry. And he goes, Matt, you're great with kids. We'll worry about the rest of the stuff as it comes.
Yeah.
And then I knew he was in my corner, and it was great.
Dude, Swarty's cool.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he was our football coach at UHAC, and then I got to know Swarty basically more recently because last year when they were doing like the only time a sub was like the full-time sub, and so I got stationed at Golden Valley, and then my teacher, some guy who literally like they're like, oh, you're this guy's cohort in class. He's gonna teach from home. I was like, okay, cool. And then I go in, I get like my stuff, and then I get an email from the dude, and he's just like, just letting you know, like this class is now your class. I'm no longer working here. Blah blah blah. And I was like, wait, what? And so then I call somebody. I'm like, hey, 'cause, like no one really knows what's going on, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we have like optional training if you want to come to it. You can come to it. And so like I go to the training because I'm like, I need to figure out what's going on. And then it's the English department's training. And so everyone's like, what are you doing here? Who are you?
I know who it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't want to say names, but like, yeah. And everyone's like, and my aunt's like, Micah? Because she comes in, my Aunt Laura, she works at Golden Valley, and she was like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I don't know, you guys. Everyone's asking me what I'm doing here. And then they're like, then they're like, oh, here's the keys to your classroom, blah, blah, blah. They're like, you need to make sure it's like COVID ready. I'm like, what are you talking talking about? Like a day ago I didn't have a job, and now like you're telling me that I have a class, and then I had never used Zoom, so I've been doing Zoom, and so the first day of school I'm doing Zoom and in class, and I'm trying to figure out everything, and I'm like, the kids are like, "Where's our teacher at?" And I'm like, "I am your teacher."
Hello.
Like, yeah. It's like,
here's my QR code.
That was before my podcast. No, exactly, though. I was just like, what is going on? And then it was just like, then I sat down, then I emailed Swarty like on day 3 of me teaching, and I was like, hey, I need to talk to somebody about what's going on. And then I told Swarty like the situation. I was like, I just like know like no other sub is in this position where like I'm the teacher. Yeah. And he's like, well, do you want to be a teacher? And I was like, honestly, no. I told him, which I kind of regret because I feel like then I ended up applying to I was applying for a photography job, and because I didn't want to be an English teacher.
Yeah, sure. Nobody does.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's my thing, though. It was just like, I would love to. I want to teach like videography. I would really love to. And for some reason, schools don't offer. Like, they offer photography classes, but like even when I was in school, I remember they did videography classes.
We have a digital media
class.
Yeah,
and so that's what I would like to do. But then again, I don't want to go through all the schoolwork and everything. Yeah. But I'm trying to get I want to do a CTE videography because you can just get a preliminary, or what is it? Like, well, they sign your credential for you pretty much. That's what I want.
Yeah, you don't have to go through the same.
Yeah, so my idea now is just work on my actual craft, and then maybe when I'm 40, I can just jump in and just have like because at least with that you can have experience, and then you can jump into it, and that's a little more thing. You can't really do is it called preliminary credential?
Well, you get preliminary, then a clear.
Okay, yeah. See, that's what my mindset on in like 5-10 years down the line. That's what I would like to do. But then, because I laughed because I told them, I was like, no, honestly, no. And then like I asked them for a letter of recommendation later that year. But then, I hope that like you're saying, a digital media class opens up at Golden Valley soon, because I ended up doing Sportwood's daughter's wedding. And so
nice.
And so like I feel like I kind of regained my trust.
See, I am good at things.
I'm not good at that specifically. Just kidding. But it was just funny that I was just like, honestly, no. And then like I remember, so then it was his daughter's wedding. We're the photographers for it, and then it was a super small wedding, and they're having at Bella Luna. They had the not rehearsal. Reception, yeah. And so we were there, and like they didn't have a table for us, and then like Ricky and what's his daughter's name again? Do you know? I should know it.
I can't think of it off the top of my
Swarty, something like that. No, but Ricky and her were like, "Oh, why don't you come over and sit with us?" So it was like literally like me and my buddy Jimmy sitting like at their head table with them. And she was like, "I heard you told my dad that you didn't want a teaching job," and I'm just like, "Oh, did he tell you that?" It's like, well, I mean, might have been not the best choice of words, but But Sportwood's always cool, and like ever since then, he's just always been like super cool to me and like, everything, and that's why I'm like.
Everybody has a Swartwood story, and they're all good.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I only looked at him like in high school as like a football coach who like yelled a lot. You know what I mean? Like that's all. I mean, my perception was going to football games and seeing him yelling. Like I didn't know the guy. But then as like the older I got, I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. Just like a genuinely good guy who like, and it's cool to see a principal that's like a good person. And like, I'm not saying that other principals aren't, but I don't know other principals. And when you can tell someone like is passionate about their job, it's like, I want that person in charge of the school.
So what sold me on him? I mean, a couple things. He would drop into my classroom and he would do my walkthroughs. He would do my evals.
Oh, that's kind of cool. That he was him.
And I was scared to death the first few weeks. I was like, oh no, he's gonna know I'm faking it. But every time he walked through, 10 minutes later, I'd get an email and say, Matt, I noticed you doing this in class. This is great. DOK level 3 that you're using 4 Cs. This is blah blah. And I was like, yeah, I am. And then
all those things.
And then he would say, hey, next time I saw this, think about trying this. And it was always encouraging, always supportive. That was great. But the thing that sold me on him is my classroom faced the amphitheater. So there's a lot of space out behind the amphitheater. And every single day at lunch, he'd walk the amphitheater, talk to kids, and he would just pick up trash.
Yeah.
Just pick up kids' lunches.
I've seen him do that with his little, like a hand thing.
I mean, if you want to talk about like leadership in action. Yeah, it's hard to not follow something like that, right? So, I learned a lot from him in a very short time. And then right after, and then, so I was only at Golden Valley for a year, and a position came open, English position came open at El Capitan, and my boys go there, so I couldn't pass it up.
Yeah, yeah.
And
did you just almost put in for like a transfer or what?
No, you apply for the job, you interview for it. So I interviewed with Mr. Shaw and told him I was a Dodger fan, and I had the job immediately. And then we didn't know what the school year was going to be like. We ended up teaching most of the year on Zoom, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was really rough. Last year was terrible, trying to get to know people, trying to establish culture, trying to make friends at a brand new place.
Trying to help kids pass or the freaking... Dude,
it was a disaster.
I felt so bad for the students last year, just because it's like, how do you expect them to be on the computer from 8 a.m. till 2, and then you're going to give them homework on the computer too. So from like 2 to 5, they're supposed to be on the computer too. Like,
I would never literally ever give homework.
Yeah, because it's like you should just be able to do stuff in class if they're going to be on this all day. Like, and some teachers were still trying to be like just the same as they always been. It's like, dude, they're not in class. It's not the same. You can't treat this year as the same.
And then because cameras weren't required to be on and mics didn't have to come on,
black screens.
I was very fortunate if I had 3 or 4 kids who had their cameras on that I could actually engage with. But most of the time they're in bed,
dude,
like camera sideways, covers up to here.
I've seen, I saw this one kid one time when I was doing my classes, and I was just like, he logged on the class. He was like one of the first ones, and he didn't know his camera was on. He was just laying in bed, like asleep. And then I was like, "Hey, your camera's on." He's like, just shut it off."
That happened a lot. I had kids come on without shirts, rubbing their eyes, and I'm like, dude, I was like, "Hey, man, your nipples are on the screen. You can't do that." So that was. Thank God we have kids back this year, and with even, I know there are a lot of complaints about having masks and all that stuff, but just being able to like see kids and interact is different.
It sucks that we can't see. Like, I don't like masks just for the fact that like I'm a person who smiles a lot, and if I'm smiling at you,
same,
like you can't tell that I'm smiling at you with the mask on, and then like kids don't know if you're joking with them or like if
that's my entire personality. Like I'm a little bit of a jackass in class, and if kids don't see me smiling while I'm telling them a joke or being sarcastic or whatever, they don't get it. Yeah. But if they see me smiling, they realize, oh, this guy actually, he's a little bit fun. He kind of, he's messing with us. He cares about us, that sort of thing. And so that's been hard. And reciprocally, like, I don't know if what I'm saying is getting through because all I see is this, right? And sometimes I have one student who wears his hood up. He's got a black mask up to here and black hair literally covering all of this. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know if you're a real person. It's terrible. But it is better than last year. I think it's getting better. Campus culture is at an all-time low. It's really, really bad right now. Kids haven't had socialization in 18 months. They don't know how to be around each other appropriately. And so there's tons of fights, lots of makeout sessions. There's like I guess maybe there always has been.
No, I think that's one thing staying consistent in high school. So I'm sure it's the makeout sessions.
Everybody knows where they go at lunch. Like this is the makeout hallway.
Dude, I always feel like that. Like sometimes I'm walking past people, I'm like, Jesus, you guys. Like, but I'm sure like if I looked at myself back in high school, I'm sure I probably would have been there every now and then too.
Just feeling it. I'm in the moment.
Mr. Davis, you don't get it. Like,
I do.
This is the one I'm gonna marry. Like, and it's like a freshman, and you're like, yeah,
right.
Talk to me in 6 months.
Exactly. Yeah. The funny thing is, I do tell kids that like you're not gonna marry this person. You're in high school with them, and I married. We started dating our junior year and just kept on. So I always joke with them, and they know because I talk about my family all the time. Wait, you started dating your wife in high school? Yeah, it was hard. It was,
it was hard, you guys.
Yeah.
But that's like also it's like a different time. I feel like even like my generation, like my cell phone wasn't like the first iPhone came out my senior year. So like we didn't have apps. Like we had like, I remember like it was back when like I'd have like a phone that like slid up or like, just I have a full keyboard on my phone. But I always think like if I went to high school 5 years later, like Instagram would have been a thing. Like, and it's just wild to think that even when I went to high school, like it's crazy to me because we didn't have computers like Chromebooks.
Yeah.
We had computers in classrooms and we had certain assignments, but almost everything was papers.
Sure.
And it's crazy to think that I had my cousin come on the podcast, and he's like the board of trustees for the Merced City School District.
Okay.
And like he's 23, I think, or 22. And when he went to school, which was like 5 years later than me, it was all Chromebooks and everything.
Yeah.
So it just in a super quick amount of time did
Yeah.
everything change.
Yeah, the computer. So, dating myself a little bit, there were computers in high school. You had to go to the library. You had to type in the full HTTP :
Yeah.
Like
it didn't come up.
no, you had to like write down a web address and make sure you typed it directly in
Exactly.
there. Email was incredible. Like it was fascinating. How you can talk to anybody. So email, and then there was one kid on campus with a cell phone my senior year, and
The block or what?
he carried it in a backpack. Like it was. Yeah. So it
That's
was.
like when they used to have the phones in cars.
Yes,
but
exactly.
It still had the like it was
Yeah.
literally just a house phone in your car.
Yeah. So then, it was. I don't feel that old, but I'm getting there. Like 42 is way different than my high school years were so different than these kids' high school years. But I mean, the cool thing and the common thing is I think like the desires and the needs and the want to feel like you fit in somewhere, like that is all the same.
Yeah.
It's just manifested differently now.
I
right?
feel like
So kids walk in my class and they're immediately doing this. I'm like, you were just out of my class walking from like, stop it. Like just be here. And so I one of the things I like to do, I don't get mad at kids for being on their phones. It is what it is, but I give them a warning, and then I have a little laser pointer. And what I like to do, one of my favorite things to do is I'll see them on their phone, like under their desk from across the room, and I'll just stand and I'll get the laser pointer right onto their hands under the desk, and then they'll notice it right here, and they'll look up, and it was burning, huh? It was like I just And so then they know. The whole class laughs. They put it down, diffuses the situation. You know, instead of making a big deal, screaming at a kid, whatever.
Hey, put your phone away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have had to get to that point.
Yeah.
But again, I think what I've realized it's about like trying to fit in and social acceptance. Where do I see myself on Instagram, TikTok? Like, how many views can I get? I think that's the reason so many kids record fights now, and because if they get a lot of views, all of a sudden they're popular or whatever, and they can. I don't know.
No, that's same thing. Like I've had like kids come up to me, or like even teachers are like, "Oh, that kid's TikTok famous or whatever," and I'm like, it's just like so random to me. I'm like, "Why do you know this?"
Yeah.
And why does it matter? And it's like I know the dumbest part about it is that they're doing dances, and that's why they're.
Yeah. Well, and TikTok has evolved from dances to a lot more elaborate.
I heard there was something going on. I don't know what it was. It's like some challenge where the kids trash the bathrooms.
So there is an entire year-long agenda right now for TikTok challenges per month. So last month was Devious Licks, where
they like lick nasty shit or what?
no, lick like steal it.
Oh, really?
So they'll take something off a wall, an entire.
I'm dating myself, not knowing these terms anymore.
So an entire soap dispenser. So the bigger, the more devious the more followers or the more likes you get or whatever. So kids still like there's kids who have stolen tires off their principal's car. It's wild stuff.
Yeah.
So this one, this October is smack a teacher's ass.
Oh my.
I know.
Dude, that's bad.
I know. It's real bad. So how are you supposed to negotiate that? If I get hit, if a kid slaps me in the butt, I'm gonna like my reaction is to turn around and slap him.
Yeah.
And I get fired.
Yeah.
Right? So we've been like already warned, like those kids will be punished. It's sexual assault. It really is. And I already had a teacher email me just yesterday saying, "Hey, a student in my class said they're gonna do it to you because you'll be cool with it because you always joke around with them." It's like, no, I will not be cool with that. I do joke around. I love it. That's one of the best parts of my job.
Obviously, if there's anything that your whole career has been, if it hasn't been consistently one job, it's working with kids.
Exactly. Yeah, and I enjoy it. But you can't put up with that.
Yeah, no.
Hey, that was knock it off, guys. Yeah,
it's like I don't want to be the bad guy, or I don't want to be the guy that gets you in trouble, but I'm not going to be the guy that tolerates
exactly
nonsense.
Right. Yeah. So there's an entire list on TikTok out from and they get progressively harder and just more ridiculous. One is kiss your dude's girlfriend in front of him. It's wild stuff, man.
Dude. And it's crazy to think because, like, I don't know. I feel like even like when me or you were in high school, it's like it was more word of mouth stuff than anything. It's not like we're being not taunted, but what's it called? Like not invited. Why can't I think of this word? Like hold on, sorry. Like what is the freaking word? Not like if you're being persuaded, but different word for persuaded.
Yeah, well,
no.
I know what you're saying. It's like they're forcing you. You need to do these things, right? So I mean, I like you said, if there was social media when I was in high school, I would have been in a lot of trouble too.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'm not blaming these kids or anything. It's just that they have more things to deal with now, like
absolutely
influences, basically.
Absolutely, and more to try to negotiate, and they don't realize that social media is not real life. Those two, for them, they work like this, right?
Yeah.
And so
social media is their life. Like
it is, and their kids are on Snap constantly in my class, constantly, and I have to kind of monitor that, but that's how they negotiate friendships. That's how they negotiate life. And most of it is drama all day long. This person said this person snapped this, blah, blah, blah. It's too much for kids to handle. And so
it's too much for adults to handle too. It's the same thing as me. Like before I notice it, I'm looking at my phone scrolling on something. Yeah. And it's like, okay, now give that to me when I'm like a 12 or 13-year-old like boy or girl.
Game over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's why I'm like, I wonder what like 10 years from now, what that generation is going to be like.
I know. Yeah, it's hard to really imagine what that's going to be like. It really is. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, because I think no one could have thought this.
No.
You know what I mean? Like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought this.
Yeah, and we all thought, like, even when MySpace came out and then Facebook took over.
MySpace, man.
we all thought, oh, what a cool thing. You can see pictures of each other. You can
post.
You can connect with people online. You can rank your favorite 8 friends.
Then if you really wanted to, you can have top 12. I remember one time I had like top 30. I'm like, what am I doing?
You can create your own backgrounds.
That was kind of cool though, because that was back when you still you were almost like learning how to code with MySpace. You know what I mean? You'd like copy, like, okay, I want this format, so I'm gonna copy this code over here, put it in my about me, make my text like this certain thing, and that was like coding. And then Facebook came and kind of just took that all away.
And then it didn't matter anymore. But we all thought it was a cool thing, and it still is a cool thing. I mean, social media is incredible.
Oh, it's a cool tool, especially like if you're a creator or for jobs. Like for like me, for photography and videography, it's like someone could just find me off of a hashtag. And like, oh, I just found you off a hashtag. I'm like, really? Like that's how you found me? But that works. Like,
it is. And so it's not in itself, it's not inherently bad. It's how we use it. It's like anything else, right? It's like, how do you use this tool? Do you want to use it to better your life, or can it make you miserable? And for a lot of people, they don't understand that it's making them miserable, and they keep on using it, and they'll never know. They'll never know that their life could be richer without having to look at their phone all the time. Or, think about when you go on hikes or you go into the mountains and whatever, and you leave your phone in your car or turn it off. It's the best, right?
Yeah, it's just like you like disconnect, and then you just feel different, and you don't know why, but I mean, you do know why. But, but that's like goes the same thing, like you're saying, like it's the same thing with food. It's the same thing with like you could do it to everything, like guns. You could do it with everything. You know what I mean? Like there's obviously goods and there's cons about everything, but we're in a society and a culture that seems like you're either this way or you're this way, and there's no middle ground. And the dumb part about everything to me is that like I feel like majority of people are on the middle ground, but they feel like they have to choose like completely this way or that way.
I could not agree more. If you don't pick a side, then all of a sudden you're a villain.
Yeah.
And it's awful. And there's no room for nuance in conversation. Well, at least on social media, there's no nuance there ever. No. Right? Which is why it's important for me, like, to sit down and do this sort of thing, to sit down and have a drink with somebody and hang out and get to know who they are. I have friends that are super hyper conservative, and I love them. And I have friends that are wild liberals, and I love them.
Yeah.
Right? Get to know the person, right? Understand what their perspective is, why they think that way. And then, I mean, I'll bet these people over here think I'm liberal, and these people over here think I'm conservative.
Yeah.
I like to, which is fine, right? I get in trouble for not choosing a side. Sometimes, like, it's better to not.
No,
Yeah.
it is. And I think I used to think like I was like pretty liberal and stuff like that. And then it's just like the woke culture just kind of took a turn where it's just like I'm all for freedom of choice and freedom of speech. And like now there's a thing where it's like you're either vaccinated or you're anti-vax and there's no middle ground. And it's just like, no, there is a middle ground, you guys. You're just choosing that there isn't because you're either team this or team that. And it's just, I don't know, like it was just like progressively over the past like 2-3 years. It's just like in no ways was I a Trump supporter or a Trump fan, but I'm not a Biden fan at all either with everything that's going on. So everything is just making me more and more like, I don't know, what is it called? It's like a
Moderate.
Yeah, they're moderate, and then is it centrist or is that something else?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Libertarian.
Libertarian. That's the word I was thinking of. Yeah, because I just I'm like. Why can't we just get to somebody with ideals and ideas from both sides?
Isn't it so sad that the best we can think of for our leaders are a narcissistic asshole, just an absolute blithering
asshole?
So, all right. So you have that guy on one hand, right, and the other guy who can't remember how many fingers he has on the other. So,
he's administering billions of vaccines in 300 million
billions.
People,
billions and billions and billions. Yeah. So it's absurd that with all the incredible people we have and intelligence we have, that these are our options. It's absolutely crazy.
I just don't get how it's like it's either this or that, and then people are still diehard on both sides, and I'm like, you guys, like. You don't have to be like you don't have like I mean like if anything's shown us, it's like you don't have to support or the people in charge anymore, especially when there's just like so much shady stuff that goes on both sides. It's just the liberals are saying like we want to save the planet and everything like that, but they're getting backed by oil and big companies like that. It's like okay, like are we really like trying to save the environment, or are you just trying to save your job position?
Yeah, man, it's a tough sort of world to negotiate. And so like for me in the classroom, I know there are a lot of teachers who wear their political leanings on their sleeves, and it's really tough. It's put offish, I think. So I want to teach students how to think, not what to think. You know, you get a choice. You get to think whatever you want. You get to believe whatever you want. That's the beauty of being
an American.
Being in this country, right? But I think there are ways to go about how we should think and how we should evaluate things. And if you disagree with this and you disagree with this and you find you're somewhere in here because there is nuance to this situation, I hope more of us can come to that. I think like you said, there are more people that live there, but because of social media and the polarization of every single topic out there, if you don't pick a side, you're automatically on that side.
Yeah. If you don't pick a side, then you're on the opposite side of what that person thinks. So like whether it's like abortion or whether it's whatever it is, it's like if you don't want to say something about it, then you're against me.
And then the difficulty is too, because there are topics there, at least for me, there are lines, right, where like I do need to speak out about that. And then that puts me in this camp. But I don't necessarily fall in that camp, you know? Like we talked about earlier with the George Floyd situation last year, I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like crushed. I watched the video and I cried.
Most people who are like just like human beings, like even like, and that was the thing on both sides agreed. Like that was wrong. That was morally wrong.
Well, so can you still support police officers? Because I think most of them are good.
Yeah.
Our systems have been set up poorly, sure, right?
But same thing with teacher systems and everything, other systems, there's always flaws in.
So two things can be true at once. What happened there was an absolute disaster. That doesn't necessarily mean that all cops are bad, right? And so, again, I'll land somewhere in there. Like I have police officer friends who are incredible people, who desire the good for their community, who they're great. Right? And then I have friends who hate cops, absolutely hate them.
Yeah.
They're also really good people, right? So I don't know. I really do hope people have broad enough experiences to see both sides and to be able to negotiate them and live in the tension somewhere in the middle. And then speak up when you feel like you need to, you know?
And I think the thing that social media ends up doing is that like everybody has a voice and a platform,
Yeah.
and they feel like they need to share their voice and platform. And I used to think, like, I remember when Trump first got elected, that's like, I was still using like Facebook. Like I'm hardcore, like not using Facebook anymore. But like, and I was like posting my political opinion, and then like it just became arguments. And I did it twice. And then after that, I was like, okay.
Why do I do this?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? Like, there's always someone going to be against me, even if it's like a good point or a bad point. Like, there's just like no point in like sharing it. But that's what nowadays, like people, and especially my favorite thing, or the funniest thing to me is that like our parents who like when we were growing up was like, don't believe everything you see on the internet, don't believe everything you see on the internet. And then like I'll see like other parents reposting something that's like clearly like a fake article or like just not a good source, you know what I mean? And they'll post this and like, look at this. And I'm just like, what do you
It's
mean?
a poorly spelled meme.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, look at this. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just like, what is going on? Like, don't believe everything you see on the internet. Like, what are you doing? Like, you preached this to us growing up, and now like here you are, like believing everything you see on the internet.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a weird space we live in for sure.
Yeah, dude, it's wild times, crazy times, honestly.
So as I have 4 kids, you know, 2 teenagers, a 12-year-old, and a 7-year-old, trying to help them negotiate growing up right now just feels impossible because they at my oldest ones have phones. Obviously, it's a necessity, but they can escape from reality literally anytime they want. But I want them to grow up being like whole humans where they can look somebody in the face and have a conversation and not have to do this every 3 seconds. And being a parent's hard.
I can only
Don't do it.
Dude, and I'm at the age where it's like I'm 28, turning 29 next year, so I just know, like, I mean, that is a lot sooner than it is farther away. Like, you know what I mean?
It's coming.
It's like, and I think there's something that goes through my mind where it's like, I think, like, you always think that, like, oh, there's going to be a right time to have a kid. Like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, like, you would think, like, oh, I'll have it together.
Yeah.
But I think for most adults, it's like one of those things where it's like, when you're a kid, you think all adults have it together, and then when you get to be adult, you're like, oh, no one, everyone's just pretending. Like, no one has their shit together.
I've never had it together. There's never been a moment in my life where like, yeah, I got this. No, like it's always chaos the whole time. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then watching your kids turn into adults. Even I have a 17-year-old going to be 18, and that's
is that the one in the band and stuff?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So Isaiah's going to be 18, and so here's the difficulty too. I know he's mature. He's a spectacular human being. He's the funniest person I know. Not just like I have really funny friends. My son is funnier than them. He's so funny. So anyway, I try to let him, because I trust him, negotiate how to grow up, what he sees on the internet, how all that sort of stuff, which is fun and also dangerous. You got to trust that they're going to be okay, you know? So the cool thing is, I think we still have a really good relationship. He, for his 18th birthday, his favorite comedian is John Mulaney.
Oh, okay.
Which is way too like old for a 17-year-old. You know what I mean? Like that. That's
John
really...
Mulaney's jokes are more like he reminds me of a classic like old time comedian, but like a newer age version of that.
So Isaiah, for some reason, he loves John Mulaney. John Mulaney's going to be in San Diego on his birthday. So for his 18th birthday, Isaiah and I are flying to San Diego, watching John Mulaney.
That's cool.
I'm so pumped up for it. And like the fact that he wants to do that with me is really,
it's like for your 18th birthday. You don't want to go hang out with your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
he might want to do that too, but at least
he knows that he'll be able to do it with his dad versus like him and his buddy.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And then getting to coach Joshua in baseball. I mean, being at El Cap with my kids, like, I genuinely loved Golden Valley because I was familiar with it. I had friends there. We're good? I had friends there. And then I was scared to go over to El Cap because my kids...
And you didn't know how your kids... Sometimes your kids...
Yeah, I asked them both, like, is this cool? Can we do this? And they're like, yeah, whatever. And it's been awesome.
It's funny you say that because my mom worked at BUHAC whenever I went to BUHAC. And like the first day of school we went together, we get out of the car and I just like started booking it. My mom's like, where are you going? I was like, I'm not walking to school with you. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm a freshman, Mom. Like, I'm not walking into school with my mom. And then fast forward to senior year, I'm having her call me me and my friends out of class. And it'd be my buddy Chris and then Tanner. We all have one class together. And she'd be like, yeah, I need Tanner, Micah, and Chris to come to the copy center. And like we'd all go and just chill in her room together.
Yeah, and then at some point you realize that your parents are kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I didn't. I think I realized that probably later. Like in my early 20s, I was like, my parents are actually cool. I like hanging out with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're great people. So I hope my kids realize or think that earlier than later.
No, that happened to me too. Because like my mom used to be a little more like strict, like super strict. She's gonna like if we all get in trouble, she's gonna make sure she calls my friends' parents to know that they should be in trouble too.
Yes.
Just stuff like that.
Yes.
And like growing up, she was always like that. And then I don't know, somehow when basically as soon as I graduated, she just chilled out. Like just chilled out. It's kind of like you're 18, kind of you can do whatever you want. And so like then I was like, oh, my parents are kind of cool. Like they just like to hang out. Like and then like you're saying, basically early 20s for me, I was just like, oh I like to go over hang out with my parents. Like they're fun. Like why wouldn't I?
Great people.
It's just like I think when there's the power of like I need to, or when they're raising you, it's like they have. Your job as a parent is to let your kids know when you're messing up. When
Yeah. True. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. What else?
What else? I don't know, man. I don't know. That was a in-depth conversation about a lot.
Just freestyling. Yeah. I know I was telling Matt before he came on, I was like, usually I prepare a lot of stuff for people, but like when it's like someone like I'm so comfortable with, I'm just like, we'll just see where the conversation goes. Yeah, we kind of went everywhere.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know, like you were saying earlier about like you want your kid to have like a conversation, be able to look someone in the eye. It's funny you say that because like I have a podcast where like that. Yeah, that's what I do. I look at people, we have a conversation, but like put me in a scenario like it's like a family gathering and I have to talk to whoever or like something like that. For some reason, I still feel like I got to get out of this conversation when I'm talking to like an adult. I'm like, they're going to ask me about something and I'm not going to know what to say. And I have a whole podcast where all I do is freaking talk to people. And I feel like that's never going to, like, maybe it will change, but I think it's just a part about, I don't know whether it's like maturing or something, but it's just like you feel awkward sometimes. Like,
well, you also get to choose who's on your podcast, right? And you don't, in real life, you don't really get to choose who you talk to all the time.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell within 30 seconds if you want to continue that conversation or not, or if you just have to put up with it and then skirt your way out of it.
No, exactly.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, that's why I'm always like, and like I've had times on this podcast like where I'm just like, maybe I pick someone and I'm like, oh, well, that's like it's hard sometimes when I'm having to like carry the conversation. Like I ask them a question, they answer it, and then that's it. And then I'm like, well, this is what I think about that. Like this is what I think about this. And I'm like, please just
what else?
Just like just respond to me. Please like help me help this conversation go on. And like I've had a lot of performers on here, and I think like the reason I've like my next few people that I'm scheduling are like not like rappers or artists, just because like one, that's like a whole different ball game. It's like a 3-hour experience where we have to set up everything and make sure everything.
Performance.
Exactly. And so that's why I'm just like, and I want to represent the community of Merced, and like it's like don't get me wrong. I think I've represented, or just Central Valley in general, have represented the rap community pretty well. But I think now I want to go to like just people more of like who work for the city, people who are like teachers, just the general average people,
regular people.
Yeah, exactly. Like because like I mean. Rappers are cool and everything, but like so are regular people. Like I enjoy this conversation just as much as I enjoy learning if you could be front row at any concert, what would it be? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Dave Matthews Band. That's how old I am. No. It's good stuff.
You born and raised in Merced too?
Born and raised in Merced. Went to Fresno State for school.
All Central Valley then.
Then came back. Yeah. Been here my whole life.
And what elementary school you go to?
Weaver.
From
preschool to 8th grade.
And then Golden Valley, you said?
Yeah. 1 year Merced when it was East Campus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, freshmen, all the freshmen.
Was East Campus right here?
Right here.
Right, right next door. I mean, I don't want to give away where my spot is, but...
Yeah, it was right here. So 1 year at East Campus where all the freshmen were there. And then...
My mom was telling me that, and I was like pretty amazed. My mom was also telling me that there was like in high schools, there's smoking sections when they were in high school, and I'm like, not when you went to high school, right?
No.
Yeah. By that time they had learned like smoking was bad. But yeah, my mom was like, yeah, like just imagine like freshmen smoking a cigarette and then just coming into class. I'm like, I can only imagine what the classroom smelled like back then.
Yeah, but everybody's all chilled out.
I'm sure they weren't just smoking weed back then either.
Yeah. No. So freshman year was Merced High, and then Golden Valley for 3 years, Fresno State for 4.
You straight out of high school into Fresno?
Yeah.
And what was your English major?
Yeah, I didn't decide on English major until I was halfway through my junior year. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
You were just taking like general ed?
GE courses, a lot of 1-unit PE courses, golf and tennis and bowling. Like it was incredible. It was awesome. And then decided like, I feel like I can kind of BS my way through most things. So let's try English. I like to read. I can BS my way through writing. And I learned really quickly that I couldn't. Like English classes were hard, and I actually had to know things. So, but I did enjoy it. It was good.
That's like when I went to, dude, I changed my major so many times because I went to the JC after graduating from BUHAC, and then I was like, okay, history. I want to be a history teacher. Like I'll do that, and then like pretty soon into that, I realized like, oh, like I went to like 2 years through there, did all my GE. Transferred to Stanislaus to do like history, and like I had 3 history classes, and it was like. Woman in colonial times was one of them. And I was like, what? And then it was like 2 other history classes. And like instantly I was like, I do not like history this much. And history, honestly, all history it's English. It's an English major, but you're just writing only on history classes. And I was just like, oh, I don't like this at all. And so then I went back to the JC and I was like, business, whatever.
Sure.
Like, I'll do business. Well, no, I was like anthropology. And then I changed it from anthropology to business. And then I got my A in business. And then I transferred to ASU through Starbucks to do... it was like sustainability business, but I had to take calculus online, and I can't take calculus online, no way. And so, and their quarter system too. So like in 6 weeks you have, in 6 weeks you have new classes every 6 weeks. And so it's just like, you're telling me I should learn pre-calculus like within 6 weeks? I can't even, like, math is not my strong suit. And so then I changed it to like, I was like, what can I BS my way through? And I was like, educational studies. And that's like such a broad thing. And so, but it kind of worked out because like, then it's like, if I ever do want to become a teacher, like, I was like looking into doing a credential program, and like all the classes they had for me to take, I had literally taken. It was like teaching with technology. It was like all these classes that I had already taken, and like I remember going to them. I'm like, well, I already like have all these classes, and like you have this description of them, and like the first like all my GE of my credential program was like already taken care of. Oh wow! And so I have that done if I ever want to become a teacher. But
there you go. Yeah,
my preliminary whatever.
Talk about the credentialing program for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the worst.
Yeah. It just seems like, well, and they're at a point too where they need so many teachers because all the teachers who have been in there who didn't go through the credential programs that are going on right now are starting to retire. That one, they're hiring all these teachers on emergency credentials because they need teachers, and then they want teachers to do a good job while the teachers are going to school themselves, and it's just like it's a hard balance. I'm sure. Go ahead.
It's really really tough. A lot of the things, I sort of feel like. If you need the material given in the credential classes, you shouldn't be a teacher. And that's probably way too heavy of a statement. There are some valuable things you learn, but it is just an absolute grind for a job that, I mean, you're not going to get rich teaching, right? And essentially, a credentials is close to a master's degree. Yeah, for a job that's never going to make you rich.
Yeah, and I think teaching is like one of the most underpaid jobs too. It's just like you want these teachers. It's not a 9 to 5. Like it's not like you're working 8 hours. It's like you're working your 8 hours, and then you're grading papers, and then also we want you to coach.
I've been working. And this is not a joke. Minimum 60 hours a week since school started. Minimum. That's just me with students, because I'm at school at 6:15 in the morning. I do our baseball weight training with our other coach. Immediately into classes at 8. I got my prep period bought out because I run Link Crew, which is incredible. Link Crew is is
Link Crew?
absolutely dope.
Is that was it 5th period or 4th period for you?
That's my 4th period.
Yeah.
So it is juniors and seniors who have leadership qualities and capabilities who want to help better the campus culture by they go into the 5th period freshman classes and essentially, I mean, kind of make friends with them, their peers and tutors and mentors and all at the same time. So 4 times a week, they get 20 minutes with just their freshman class. And so they, some days it'll be disseminating information. Here's what's coming up. It's homecoming week. Don't miss this. Don't miss this. Some days it's let's play this game because it's fun to get to know each other. And so Link Crew is incredible. I am 100% lucky. I don't know, blessed. I don't use that word very much, but Link Crew is.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's
that
awesome.
reminds me of when I went to Buhack, we had block schedule, which is like 4 classes in the fall, 4 classes in the spring.
I taught that at LeGrand. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I liked it. Granted, I don't think it was good for testing when you take a math class in the fall and get tested 6 months later in the spring. But we had this class called advisory where one Wednesday, or every week on Wednesdays, we'd have an extra period for 30 minutes. We go in this class and they just talk about that's the same thing they talk about. And it was the same. So from freshman to senior, it was the same exact people in your class with the same teacher.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like you got to build a relationship with those people. But that's what it reminded me of. And although the block schedule was kind of but I always liked that one thing because it's kind of like you have almost like a support system of this one class to go by.
And that's sort of what we want with Link Crew. It's hard to build and maintain that culture when teachers aren't necessarily behind it. But our Link Crew kids are doing a great job. And then I teach 2 classes after lunch, and then 8th period I go right into coaching tennis, and then it'll be baseball in the spring. But I don't get home until 5 minimum. If we have away matches, it's 8 or 9, and it is a lot. And then I have to grade and I have to prep, and that usually goes on the weekends. And so right now it's a lot, and especially considering the behaviors that we're facing with students and
parents and everything.
And parents and other teachers. So anyway, but it is a job I really love. I'm glad. I'm for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be. And even though the work is really, really hard, I love doing what I do.
That's cool. And that's all I think. And it's really cool because I think the more people are this new generation of teachers honestly seems a lot different than the older generation of teachers because I have a lot of friends who are becoming teachers. My friends' siblings are becoming teachers, and it's I kind of get to see how they are interacting with their students and stuff like that, and it's just a completely different way than people have been. They can connect with the kids, and even you, even though you may be 42, you can still connect with the kids, I think, a little better than some of the teachers who are I
hope so, because the job just would not be enjoyable if that were if all you're doing is teaching and handing out worksheets or whatever. That's awful. I love getting after kids graduate, I'll let them follow me on social media or I'll interact with them
afterwards.
And then so it's cool getting messages after the fact. Mr. Davis, your class was fantastic. Whatever. I learned. I don't even remember English, but I remember what we talked about this day. And so those are the I like that. Obviously, I do my job and try to teach kids to read and write and understand literary concepts. But more than that, I want them to grow up to be great people and valuable, contributing members of our society.
Yeah. When I was that teacher for that month, one of the teachers just said hey, you don't worry about teaching them English. If you're here for a month, just try to get their grades up, 1, and 2, just teach them to be a good person.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day, obviously you want them to learn all the things that you need them to learn, but if you're making an impact and if they're going to I remember Mr. Daly or I remember Mr. Davis, everyone has those teachers that they remember.
Sure.
And I think at the end of the day, that's all you could hope for is that your impact is just something good for them.
Absolutely.
Hey, that sounds like a great place to wrap this up.
Cheers again.
Cheers again. Matt, I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
We can shake hands.
Thanks for having me.
This is it. Real talk and whatnot.
Real talk. That's what it is.